Next news. Breaking news.
A dangerous Ebola outbreak is exploding across the Congo and Uganda right now, with a rare Bundibugyo strain that has no approved vaccine or treatment and hundreds of suspected cases, and dozens are dead already. At least one American missionary has tested positive while treating patients. And the World Health Organization just declared it a public health emergency of international concern. But here is the breaking development that changes everything. The Trump administration is not bringing any infected Americans back to U.S. soil. They're sending them to Germany instead and slapping down immediate travel restrictions from the affected region. So why is the White House acting so fast while the global health bureaucracy panics? Well, you see, this matters directly to every American family because Ebola spreads through bodily fluids and carries a high fatality rate with no proven countermeasures for this specific strain. After years of COVID chaos and shattered trust in health agencies, the last thing anyone wants is another imported outbreak or rushed emergency measures. Communities near ports of entry and major airports feel the immediate pressure from new travel rules. And politically, this highlights the difference between an administration focused on protecting U.S. borders and sovereignty versus international bodies quick to declare global crises. The economic ripple could hit supply chains and travel sectors again if fear spreads unchecked. Now, families are watching their kids and elderly parents. They know the stakes when officials admit they have no medicine ready in affected countries. The Trump team's decision to keep treatment overseas and enforce restrictions early sends a clear signal that lessons from past failures have been learned, and America First security comes first. Now, before we dig deeper into the containment efforts, tonight here is critical breaking news on America's national security supply chain that ties directly into these biosecurity concerns. Now, this is America's mineral supply chain. The company SAGA Metals, trading as SAGMF in the U.S. and SAGA in Canada, is now emerging as a major story in the race to secure materials tied directly to national defense. In less than 6 months, SAGA has moved with unusual speed. Last week, the company announced a 100% drill success rate across all 57 holes in its radar project, and they finished ahead of schedule. Now, that matters because radar is being positioned as a potential host for strategic metals essential to defense technologies and energy independence. Check out the in-depth interview with the CEO on this topic I did over the weekend, and check the exclusive briefing link below, but it's only for Next News viewers. This rapid progress positions SAGA Metals as a key player helping secure America's future against foreign supply risk at a time when every resource counts for true sovereignty. And strong moves like this remind us why domestic strength in critical areas keeps the nation resilient during any overseas health threat. And now the deeper question surfaces after that quick update. While the Trump administration locks down borders and keeps treatment offshore, what exactly triggered this sudden global emergency declaration? Official numbers show over 300 suspected cases and 88 deaths so far. Yet at the same moment, fresh reports reveal an NIH-linked researcher was stopped smuggling undeclared Ebola samples straight from the outbreak zone into the United States. The timing raises alarms that no one can ignore. Now, the president has already come out today and confirmed the American has tested positive, but they will be treated in Germany. Here is that moment earlier today. Okay, just a minute. Let me get that audio for you guys.
Ebola, you said Ebola.
Yeah. Should Americans be concerned about Ebola?
I'm concerned about everything, but certainly am. I think that, it's been confined right now to Africa, but it's something that has had a breakout. I could ask Bobby or Oz to say a couple of words about it if you'd like. Do you want to do that?
I think Heidi Overton is going to come up and give us a few words here. Dr. Overton.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Today, the CDC held a press briefing that provided a lot of the answers and information, but we have stood up a full interagency response. The Department of State, the CDC, the Department of War, everyone is fully involved in tracking. Today, we do have an announced today at the press briefing. There is an American that is symptomatic and has tested positive for, it's the Bundibugyo virus, a strain of Ebola. That American, as well as 6 other high-risk contacts, are going to be taken out of that region and taken to Germany. We want to thank our German counterparts. That is an internationally recognized location for viral hemorrhagic fever treatments. So we're very grateful that they would take them. It's a significantly shorter flight time for Americans to receive treatment there in Germany. For all other Americans, we have issued travel warnings. We have instituted just today entry restrictions for non-U.S. citizens that have been in the region in the past 21 days. So in Uganda, Democratic Republic of Congo, and South Sudan. So very serious measures that have been taken. We are working to communicate very frequently with everyone. Your question was, should Americans be worried? Right now, there are no cases of Ebola in America. We want to keep it that way, and we are doing everything we can to support Americans in the region. Thank you, Mr. President.
So I guess it's really only a matter of time before Nancy Pelosi calls blocking flights from the Congo racist. But the Trump administration has blocked any infected Americans from returning home, ordering treatment overseas instead, while slapping travel restrictions from the hot zones. Africa CDC chief says he is in panic mode over the Ebola outbreak. And here's what he had to say.
We need in Africa to start to say we must manufacture vaccines, medicines that we need, because we cannot on a daily basis when we have an outbreak to be on panic mode. Currently, I'm on panic mode because people are dying. I don't have medicines. I don't have vaccine to support countries. Yesterday, I called for a meeting of all partners. We have some candidate vaccine, some candidate medicine. We are pursuing this route. We hope that we can have something in the next coming weeks.
Doctor, can I ask you perhaps a more difficult question about this? Is there a sense that the rest of the world is still thinking about Ebola as an African problem and not doing enough about it? Because what springs to mind is how many African countries struggle to get vaccines for COVID-19 long after more developed countries had received them.
This is the equity issue. And Western countries, they don't understand that when Africa is affected, they are also at risk because people are flying every day. And it means building strong system, supporting Africa, investing in Africa to have the local manufacturing of our vaccine and medicine is also the way to protect Western countries. That one, I think the message must be clear to all of us. We are ready in Africa.
Well, maybe if you just called Bill Gates, I'm sure he'd be running over there with some vaccines and some cash, right? Anyway, across the continent, an Africa CDC director openly admitting he's in panic mode with no medicines or vaccines. And Gov is corrupt posted, the WHO knew hantavirus was too weak to cause the global pandemic, and since only Canada and Australia would have been retarded enough to play those COVID-era lockdown games again, they moved to Ebola and declared it a global health emergency.
Today, I had a call with the Minister of Health of the Democratic Republic of the Congo concerning the new outbreak of Ebola disease in the country's northeastern Ituri province. Currently, WHO is aware that 13 cases of Ebola have been confirmed. This is the 17th recorded Ebola outbreak in DRC since the virus was first identified in 1976. The World Health Organization's representative to DRC and other WHO experts are in Ituri and working side by side with DRC health authorities to respond to and contain the outbreak. Today, I have released $500,000 from WHO's contingency fund for emergencies to immediately support the response.
Oh, US dollars. Nice. So, the World Health Organization on the case. Have no fear, guys. So, after the World Health Organization pushed past hantavirus to declare Ebola a global emergency, new reports show at least 6 Americans exposed. This is from CBS Mornings. At least 6 Americans have been exposed to rare strain of Ebola. They've declared a global health emergency. There are over 300 suspected cases in Congo as of Sunday. Dr. Celine Gounder, who spent 2 months working in West Africa during the 2014-2016 Ebola outbreak, shares what Americans need to know about this strain. Good God.
There are growing concerns about a rare and deadly strain of Ebola in Africa that's prompted officials to declare a global health emergency. At least 6 Americans there have been exposed as health officials urgently try to contain the spread. CBS News medical correspondent Dr. Celine Gounder spent 2 months working in West Africa during the 2014 to 2016 Ebola outbreak. She's also the editor-at-large for public health at KFF Health News and joins us now. Doctor, good to see you. What do we know about these Americans and their infection?
So we know there are at least 6 who are being monitored as contacts. 3 of them are considered high-risk contacts, so significant exposure. And 1 of those contacts has already developed symptoms. We don't know yet where they will be evacuated to for medical care. Some of the sites with experience in the United States include Bellevue Hospital here in New York City, Emory in Atlanta, University of Nebraska Medical Center. But Nebraska is already taxed with all of the hantavirus contacts, so they're not going to be able to take these folks.
And for those of us here at home in America, should we be concerned about Ebola?
Well, I do want to point out the minerals in your smartphones are from this part of the world. So you may not care so much about the risk to yourself health-wise, but there are very real reasons this matters to all of us in terms of economics and so on. The risk to Americans right now is very low. Ebola is not something that spreads through the air. You have to have direct contact with somebody, their bodily fluids. You cannot catch this from someone before they show symptoms. But at the same time, if we allow this to spread uncontained, that does start to pose risk.
And also what's interesting about this is a rare form of Ebola. Of course, there is no vaccine. So how is that complicating the effort to treat these patients?
Yeah, this species is called Bundibugyo. There are no vaccines, no treatments for this. And in the absence of USAID funding for the people to respond on the ground, we've pulled out of WHO. We have a lot
in the absence of USAID funding. You see how she threw that in there? Of course, CBS. What do you expect?
The tools we would normally have to respond.
That's a really important point. Dr. Celine Gounder, thanks so much for your expertise.
Right. Of course, right. Yeah, we get it. So we have this from Laura Loomer that the World Health Organization declares Ebola outbreak in DRC and Uganda, public health emergency. While NIH's Vincent Munster was just caught smuggling Ebola samples into America. The World Health Organization has officially declared the Ebola Bundibugyo strain epidemic in the DRC and Uganda public health emergency. There are now 300 suspected cases. This is a rare strain with no approved vaccines or therapeutics. But here's what the mainstream media and health bureaucrats won't tell you. Right before the outbreak exploded, NIH virologist Vincent Munster, a long-time frickin' Munster, the Munsters, really? A long-time Fauci collaborator who runs Ebola and bat virus research at Rocky Mountain Labs in Montana, was caught smuggling undeclared deadly pathogen samples from the Democratic Republic of Congo into the United States. Dude, this is like the 12 frickin' monkeys. According to explosive whistleblower reports in my investigation with White Coat Waste, Munster and at least 1 colleague, including his wife, Emmy DeWitt, who works on Ebola and coronaviruses at NIH, were stopped at the airport with undeclared virus samples in a protective case. They had no proper permits or documentation for transporting these high-risk pathogens. The FBI is investigating. HHS Gov referred the case to FBI. Munster has still not been scrubbed from directories amid the scandal, and he and his wife still appear to be employed, according to the NIH website. Munster's done deep field work in the exact region of Africa where Ebola strains circulate. His lab handles the world's deadliest viruses in BSL-4 facilities. This is not the first red flag around risky pathogen work tied to NIH, yet Instead of full transparency, we've seen HHS and NIH in full cover-up mode, downplaying, delaying, and trying to memory hole the smuggling incident while this new outbreak rages. Well, isn't that great? She writes, this is exactly why we can't trust the same agencies that push gain-of-function research, lied about lab leaks, and now act shocked when Ebola pops up again. So that's what we have. She's talking about the Fauci holdovers. Let's see if we get a little bit of more context from her here.
The people that get this virus generally in third world countries in Africa, they don't have access to medical care, and they rot, their bodies rot from the outside in. And they have viruses that present on the outside, as you know, big pussy orifices, and the flesh starts to rot, and then it starts to bleed, and then you start to cough up blood, and you have blood literally pouring out of every orifice of your body until you're just dead.
Yeah, and if you go to our blog about the whistleblower letter, we actually have a photo from inside the Rocky Mountain lab that we uncovered in our investigation of a monkey infected with Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, and you could see the blood coming out of their nose and mouth. So this staffer was infected. Apparently, according to the whistleblower, the other staff, and Rocky Mountain has since now admitted that this happened. So this staffer was infected with Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, this Ebola-like virus, and apparently was kept from most of the staff at the facility. And the Rocky Mountain Laboratory in Montana apparently has a relationship with a local hospital in case anything happens. In case there's an incident like this, they can bring somebody there and they can be properly treated. But instead of doing that, which they were apparently concerned would raise alarms because people would find out about the accident, they flew somebody hours away. There's the photo right there of a monkey at the Rocky Mountain Laboratory infected with the same virus that we're talking about. So instead of bringing the person to a local hospital, apparently they flew them to somewhere hours away to avoid being detected, so the press and the public would not find out that one of the staffers at their local lab in this small Montana town was bitten by a monkey who was infected with Crimean Congo hemorrhagic.
Lovely. So the smuggling scandal at NIH now collides with fresh word that the U.S. missionary in Congo has tested positive. The Bundibugyo strain, not the more common Zaire strain. Dr. Peter Stafford contracted it while treating patients during an active outbreak. His wife and another missionary are quarantined but asymptomatic. The DRC has had more Ebola outbreaks than any country on earth. So I'm assuming those are the folks who are going to Germany now. And again, enter the World Health Organization after consulting with DRC and Uganda, where Ebola disease caused by Bundibugyo is known to be currently occurring. I determined that the epidemic constitutes a public health emergency of international concern, a PHEIC, as defined in the provisions of the IHR. And if I recall, we're no longer members of the World Health Organization. So, Tedros, appreciate you, buddy. I think we're going to handle this one on our own. And then we got this from CBS Evening News. The growing Ebola outbreak in Congo has now spread to Uganda.
In Congo's Ituri province, health officials are battling a new Ebola outbreak. The Africa CDC says there are 246 suspected cases and 65 people dead, the highest death toll from the disease in years. The World Health Organization is concerned.
Well, we know very well that the country has experience, but the region where it is happening is highly volatile, with the humanitarian situation going on and the population moving around from South Sudan to Uganda and other parts.
Government officials confirmed the outbreak has now spread to Uganda.
Medical professionals seem very concerned about the possibility or the ability to contain this. Why is that compared to other times?
It's already a big outbreak at the point that we're hearing about it. There have already been a number of deaths, and this is a strain of Ebola for which we have no treatment, no vaccines.
The virus spreads through direct contact with blood and other bodily fluids.
Yep, we know. So, even as Ebola spreads, the earlier hantavirus scare drove one Arkansas man to threaten a Mass shooting at Walmart if lockdowns return. A 20-year-old Arkansas man was arrested after allegedly threatening a mass shooting at a Walmart if the country shut down over hantavirus fears. Authorities say the threat was made through an online video game chat. So, there you have the moron. Ugh. Oh, these guys never quit. So the real story here, it's not just the virus itself, but the collapse of the public trust that makes every new declaration feel suspicious. NIH and former Fauci-linked operations face fresh scrutiny over risky pathogen transport with an active FBI investigation underway. Americans remember the COVID years of hidden information and overreach, so this time the response from the White House emphasizes containment overseas and early restrictions instead of panic at home. The establishment wants you focused only on the African outbreak while ignoring domestic biosecurity failures. Trump is delivering exactly what voters demanded: secure borders, no imported threats, and zero tolerance for the same agencies that lost credibility before. This is the difference that leadership makes when every outbreak is viewed through the lens of past betrayals. So tonight the message is very clear. Ebola is a serious regional threat, but the Trump administration is handling it with strength and speed that puts American safety first. No repeat of past mistakes. No bringing risks onto U.S. soil. No blind trust in global health bureaucrats. So share this report with everybody who needs the real story without the spin. And drop a yes or no in the comments right now. Do you believe the Trump team is doing enough to protect the homeland from these threats? And make sure you text raw feed to 844-840-4963 to bypass the algorithm and get direct updates straight to your phone from me when it matters most. And make sure you check out the Next News merch shelf below this video for gear that shows your America First pride. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and remember, real leadership keeps the nation strong. Thank you for watching the Next News Network.
The system controls information. Information control is power. They don't want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now. You know out.